Politico reports today 4 environmental groups have teamed up to launch ads attacking 5 House Republicans who voted against the Waxman-Markey ACES Act. These ads, costing more than $1 million in total, come from the Sierra Club, League of Conservation Voters, Move On, and Americans United for Change. Targeted Congressman Thaddeus McCotter of Michigan, Denny Rayburg of Montana, Roy Blunt of Missouri, and 2 Virginia Republicans, Frank Wolf and Eric Cantor. Also, he's House Minority Whip. Here's a look at one of these ads.
Dear Congressman Blunt, I just read that big oil and energy interests have spent $80 million this year trying to kill clean energy legislation. They sent in their lobbyists, they contributed to your campaign, and when it was time to vote for the Clean Energy and Security Act, you voted no. No to 1.7 million new jobs. No to the jobs we really need. I just have to ask, what were you thinking?
And with us now by phone from New York for more is Ben Smith of Politico. Ben, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you taking some time. Well, so what are these ads really accusing all these congressmen of doing or being? Is it basically they're siding with big oil?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically accusing them of being tools of the oil industry, never a popular thing. I mean, the broader point that the ads are trying to make is that they're trying to change the conversation on this piece of legislation, which is seen as quite unlikely to get through the Senate by a lot of people, because the perception is that for a lot of senators this is a dangerous vote, that people who people will perceive, or their energy prices are going up as a result of this vote. For instance, particularly in a state like Virginia, which produces a lot of coal, and so what they're trying to do is fire a shot across the bows of senators, really, and say there's going to be a cost to voting against this as well. It's not just a cost to voting for it. There are people in the sort of environmental movement and just this is regular citizens who are going to be quite upset if you oppose this. And so it's no coincidence that they've taken these ads out and attacking House members in states like Virginia, Montana, Missouri, where their real target is the senators from those states who are kind of wavering on the American Clean Energy and Security Act.
So the target is really the senators that are going to be negotiating the new bill next month, not so much not so much voters who are in these states as well. Can they have an impact?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I think they're kind of trying to make an example of these House members whom they're attacking. With what's actually for this, for that side of this movement, a pretty substantial amount of money. They're putting about $1 million into these television ads. So I think the members of Congress and the people who live in those areas are certainly going to notice that this is going on.
So the big idea, they want to counter the the perception, the political perception that there is a risk for voting for the bill. That they could end up voting against. They could end up voting for a job killer.
Exactly, and that is a fairly widespread perception, which I think has been reinforced over the last several months by the caution of senators like Claire McCaskill, Carl Levin, people from a lot of these from coal-producing states, from industrial states, from states like Missouri that are very dependent on coal energy. Very cautious approach to this legislation.
Will people really see this, though, as a choice between voting for big oil and fighting for clean energy jobs?
Right, clean energy jobs, which is one word as far as the people who support this legislation are concerned. Exactly, the sort of green jobs of the future, and that's how they're pitching this bill, versus a vote for big oil and big energy. Tell
me about the collaboration between these 4 different groups and this big expenditure they're making. Is that unusual, or is it something you would expect at such a time when the healthcare debate is so much bigger right now?
Right, I think they're trying to kind of make a dent in that, but it is increasingly common that this fairly well-coordinated liberal alliance, which includes, the groups you'd expect to be working on an issue like this, like the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters, allying themselves with Move On, the kind of, online-based activist group, and Americans United for Change, which is basically a labor union-backed White House arm. These groups, which, in the historically Democratic interest groups are famous for feuding and not coordinating their efforts and turning the guns inward. This administration, they've been very good and very deliberate about coordinating their efforts, and this is an example of that.
So do you expect more such ads to come out?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're hoping that, that this bill, they'll be able to push this forward in the fall. I think it's going to be very difficult, to break through the health care debate, to get a senator like, Blanche Lincoln or Mark Pryor from Arkansas, for instance, which they didn't target, but another heavy lift. If the White House is going to be pushing them to stick their necks out for anything, it's going to be health care, and it's going to then be very hard to get them to give ground on something like this or to take a hit for something like this.
Right. Okay. We'll be watching, and we'll be watching for more on this on Politico. Ben Smith, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.